From here, I'm just going to go ahead. Like I had a little script, but here we go. All right. So I know this is going to be a little bit long, and I've taken this before. It's been a while, but I've taken it before, and I believe I got libertarians, socialist libertarian, I think is what it was. Let's find out what I get now. All right. So if economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. I strongly agree with that. I think that I am very, very much against capitalism, especially unchecked capitalism that we've had in the United States for a long time. It really bothers me. I'd always support my country, whether it was right or wrong. Disagree. I do have a small amount of nationalism in that. Yes, it's the United States, but for the most part, I'm not really big on being only proud of a place just because that's where you were born. I'm much more analytical when it comes to stuff like that. No one chooses their country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. I somewhat agree with that. I mean, it's literally the direct opposite of the last one, right? Our race has many I don't even need to continue that. Our race has many superior qualities is fucking bullshit. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. I'll disagree with that one. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. Now that's a rough one. That's a really rough one because I don't know. Like going after, as an example, Saddam Hussein or Bin Laden. Any of these like gigantic like terrorist guys. If you have to go against international law, that may not be a bad thing because you're ultimately fighting for the great of the world, right? I'm going to agree, but it's not a very strong agree. This one's interesting. This one's hard too. I mean, the whole fake news thing is a problem, right? Like, I don't care if information and entertainment is fused. I don't care if you entertain the masses, but the information must be 100% correct. And if it's an opinion, it needs to be said as an opinion. You know what? I disagree, but it's only because I think you can do both in a correct manner. All right. People are ultimately divided more by class than by nationality. I disagree with that. I don't think it's more by. I think it's pretty close to even. We're pretty divided by a lot of things. Nationality and class are absolutely two very, very different but very distinct things. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. Strongly disagree. Everybody needs a job or at least something to do, right? Some sort of income because we have to have income to live. So if that means that we need to create jobs for people who may be less fortunate than us in whatever capacity that is, whether that is people who are not the best learners, people with disabilities, things like that. I think everyone should be taken care of. That's just the way it is. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. Absolutely 100% agree. If there are no requirements on people, I firmly believe they will take advantage of the system in any way they can. And that includes, that may sound like it's actually an individual thing, but it's not. I very much distrust corporations far more. I worry more about a corporation who is avoiding $1 billion in taxes over the 10 people who are getting $40,000 a year. And this is a fucking ballpark number, right? I don't know how much they make for it. Actually, way less than 40,000. If somebody is on, let's say somebody is on welfare and they're getting a check or they're getting whatever it is they're getting, right? I care, and let's just say that they're literally just the laziest person in the world and all they want is free shit, right? Like that's what Republicans like to say, that we all want, all the Democrats want free shit, right? Okay. So let's say there are 10 people like that. I care significantly less about those 10 fucking people than I do about that one corporation. Those 10 people are taking, let's say, a grand total of $150,000, right, out of the government's pocket. That corporation is not giving $1 billion to the government to pay for things like, I don't know, fucking military spending that Republicans have such a hard on about, right? Yeah, I care significantly more about that than I do that $150,000 that's out of the government's pocket. I'm sorry, there's no way to change my mind on that. No way at all. Now, that's not to say that they aren't both an issue. I'm not saying that the person, who's taking $20,000 a year out of the government's pocket when they could be working, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not protecting them and I'm not defending them. They should be getting off their ass. However, I'm sorry, a corporation is a much bigger entity and much, much bigger to worry about than, like I said, 10 people who are taking $20,000 a year. So there we go. There's that, right? From each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. Yes, and fundamentally speaking, yes, I do agree with that. I don't think in practice, I don't think this is very possible. But in theory, I like it. The freer the market, the freer people. Disagree. Disagree. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled, branded consumer product. No, I disagree with that. And here's where the capitalist stuff in me, the ingrained capitalism in me, does come out. If someone can pay for something as basic as water, like if you can go to your tap, and to be clear, I do think that utilities like water, electricity, I do not think those should be. I think they should be very, very heavily regulated, and I think there should be subsidies for people who can't afford things like that, which I believe in some areas there are. So I'm not saying anything that's necessarily out of here or out of disagreement with reality. I believe there are programs to make sure of that, but in my opinion, the government should just take care of it rather than having to have third-party nonprofits to help with things like that. There should be no reason why any person cannot have access now to running water. It's just astronomical to me. And the same thing with electricity. At this point, we've gotten the cost of electricity down to such a minute amount. And don't get me wrong, there's always costs associated with these things, right? So the taxpayers' money would still have to pay for it, but you're fucking paying for it anyway. Anyway. So yeah, I disagree. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. This one's rough. I don't like landlords, and I don't like the idea of landlords. However, in the way the system is, I can't see a way out of having landlords just the way they are today, just inside the system we have today. If we could create new laws and things to change it, I would be all for it. So land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. I'm going to agree. I think if people can buy certain things, but I think the majority of things should be. This is a much bigger policy discussion, right? Maybe I'll get into that another time. All right. It's regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. I strongly agree. Very strongly agree with that one. Very strongly agree. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. Now, I'm not entirely sure what this means. Let's take a look. Protectionism. Got it. Okay. So the theory or practice of shielding a country's domestic industries from foreign competition by taxing imports. Now this is where my everyday guy shtick comes in. As an example, I don't know what protectionism is. I had no idea that I understand what this is saying. I did not know that there was a word for this, although I should have known there was a word for it, right? There's words for everything. The theory or practice of shielding a country's domestic industries from foreign competition by taxing imports. Do I think so? In other words, you're taxing imports so that way jobs don't leave the country is how I'm reading that. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that. The theory or practice of shielding. I don't know. This is foreign policy, and foreign policy is where I get really creeped. I'm just not good. I'm not good with foreign policy. Um, no, I'm going to disagree. Here's my thinking on it, and please let me know in the comments if I have this wrong. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. As I read that, what that's basically saying is shielding like the United States domestic industries from foreign competition by taxing imports, right? It's sometimes necessary in trade. I don't see a reason why you can't let a constant flow of goods and services going through. But maybe there's a piece of that that I'm not looking at. Like I said, foreign policy, which includes things like like import exports, stuff like that. It's I'm kludgy on it. We'll just leave it at that. Strongly, heavily disagree with this. Insanely so. A company should take care of its people first. I mean, if you don't take care of your employees, you have no company. You have no business. So anyway, although I mean, fucking fast food places kind of disagree with that, right? Because they all treat their employees like shit, right? I should probably turn this off. Hopefully this wasn't blowing on this entire time. Yeah. The rich are too highly taxed. Strongly disagree. I actually am very much for pre-Reagan tax rates. I don't see why we can't go back to that. Seriously. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. Strongly disagree. I think higher standards is dangerous. If you want more personalized, even that's a little kludgy. I don't even know how to say it. Like, again, I haven't done enough research on it, but I know that in socialized healthcare countries, they also do have private healthcare. I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but I do not think that somebody who can't pay should not be taken care of to the best of the ability of that system. So whether it's a hospital, whatever, the amount of money that you make should have no bearing on whether or not you live or die based on your care, period. Governments should penalize businesses that mislead the public. Absolutely agree. I kind of think that's self-explanatory. Genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Yeah, I mean, I'm just for restrictions in general. Always, wait. Woo! I almost did that one wrong. Abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. Strongly disagree. A woman has the right to choose, and I, as a man, have zero right to tell a woman what to do with their body, period. And I think that goes for all men. This should be a woman's decision only, period. All authority should be questioned. Fuck yes. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Disagree, although I understand the idea behind it. It's as I get older, it's definitely harder to agree with. Definitely. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. Disagree, although I do think that if a museum is not able to bring in enough money to sustain itself, but it still is obviously attracting. So if a museum cannot sustain itself, but it does attract hundreds of thousands of visitors a year, and it's something, that's very highly regarded. Say a natural history museum, as an example, absolutely should be helped along because that is still providing a service. And I'm not saying this is the case, but let's say it's a museum that just nobody is interested in anymore. Then yeah, let's take a look at that. That to me, that's like an inefficiency. Like you should still kind of keep track of what's happening in the world and kind of manipulate. Let your art reflect society. That's kind of how I feel about that. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. Schools should not. I agree with that. Actually, I strongly agree with that. Kids need to be in school. For all of us. All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. Strongly disagree. We should all be there's nothing wrong with diversity, and there's nothing wrong with introducing it into society in general, or even smaller groups of society. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. I'm disagreeing with that. I don't want to go into it. I don't agree with spanking at all. It's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. Agree, of course. I mean, that's everybody has secrets. That's part of being a human being. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. Strongly agree. I have medical marijuana. And I smoke a lot. Yes, I absolutely agree. Prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generations to find jobs. I want to know why not both. So, the arts, right? The arts are extremely important. And so someone, let's say, who's an art dealer, right? Or an artist who is prolific and has shown great potential early on. I see no reason why they can't be encouraged to actually go into the art world. Nothing wrong with that. I do think that there needs to be some sort of utilitarian approach to, at least since society is the way it is right now, I think that if you're going to, I think that there has to be a utilitarian approach to skills. So you definitely have to find something that you can do that's going to make you money in the society the way we have it today. If society was not the way it is today, then I would feel differently about it. But because society is the way it is, I think that you definitely need to find a skill that will allow you to make money. I got very lucky. I have a very natural affinity to computers, which allowed me to get into a very high-paying job and then quit that high-paying job, and that's why I'm doing this now. I haven't worked since December, so 10 months. And I've just taken the time off to kind of work on myself and really figure out where I want to go from here. And this is kind of what I mean by that. Like, I was able to get money to go for my dream. Not everybody has the skill to do that. So that's why I think everybody should be able to, you need to be able to have a skill that's going to make you money, so that way you can save if you ever want to do something like this. Again, only in today's society do I think that way. If society changes to the point where we can encourage artists to go do art, that's the society I would actually like to work towards. I think it's an absolute society that has no reason to not be worked towards. But unfortunately, I think just the way today's society is, you do need to learn a skill. You do need to learn a trade. You need to learn something that will make you money. I know I went a little bit too long on that, but that's that. If in a perfect world, you could definitely focus on art, and it wouldn't be a big deal. Universal basic income, things like that. All of those things, if they were there, if they were, free college, things like that, or state paid college, things like that. I would love for us to be able to do that, but we can't. The society, as the way it is, the culture in the United States is very much a work culture. It's disgusting. It's terrible, but it is what it is. So that's how I feel about that. If things were different, I wouldn't agree. This is disgusting to me. I don't even want to read this out loud, but I'm going to. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. Strongly fucking disagree with that. That is that's eugenics, and that's fucking disgusting. And I will not tolerate it. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. Disagree. Again, I'm going to talk from the way I feel society is today. I think that when I see discipline, I don't necessarily mean that as spanking or things like that. However, we do have a world where discipline is a thing. If you do something wrong at work, you are going to be disciplined. So do I think we need to teach them to accept it? No. Question authority. Question all authority. Figure out where is this authority coming from, and does that person really have the right to tell me blah blah blah, right? If it's your employer, of course they do, because they can fire you. But there are times to question discipline and authority, and there are times to not, or times where you can, but it's not going to benefit you. Again, that's the society we live in. And I want to be clear. I should probably make this very clear anytime I talk. But I look at things two ways. I see them both as the way society is right now, and then as the way I'd like to see things. Right? And we're all like that to an extent. I just need to be very clear about which one I'm speaking of. So yeah, there are no my bad. There are no savage and civilized peoples. There are only different cultures. I strongly agree with that. Especially in the modern world, I think the word savage is disgusting. Like, why would you even use that? It's horrible. Yeah, no, that's bad. Yes, I agree. There are only different cultures, yes. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. Now, I talked about this a little bit earlier. I agree that in today's society, yes, I agree that they should not expect society's support. That's partially because of the way the culture is. Do I wish that we had more social support services? Yes. The issue that comes in here with people in general and me specifically, like, is refuse the opportunity. Like, if you can work and it's in something that you're proficient in, you're very proficient in, maybe go do the work. Maybe go do it. It's like me saying, no, I'm not going to work in computers. Like, I am very adept at computers. I should be working in computers. I mean, aside from what I'm doing now, because this is obviously very different. But in general, to make money, if I need to make money again in society, I will go back to working on computers. So it's kind of like that. If you have the ability, yeah, you probably should do it. But at the same time, like, who wants to fucking work? I mean, seriously, who wants to fucking work? And this idea, I also hate the idea of saying, well, I have to do it, so do you. That doesn't entirely rub me the right way. Then again, I understand why people say it. So yeah, I'm just going to put agree for right now. That's a much deeper conversation, right? When you are troubled, it's better to not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. This is an agree again with an asterisk. You're not going to get through emotional shit by just whistling while you work. That's just not a thing, right? But solely focusing on negative is bad. This is also actually a statement to myself, since that's kind of what I've been doing as well for the last 10 months. First generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. Strongly disagree. Now, can never be and will never be are two things. Can they? Yes. Will they? That's up to them. I don't think that we need to force it. Excuse me. If, as an example, there is a small section of a town or a city, like Chinatown in San Francisco, right, where they're able to live within that world, I don't see anything wrong with them staying there. I mean, if they want to go out and they want to do things, then they'll have to learn enough English to get by. But as English as an example, I mean, there's many other things part of that culture, But yeah, I definitely do not see a reason why they can, if they want to live in that world, that's fine. I don't have any problems with that. What's good for the most successful corporations is always, ultimately, good for all of us. That is the worst sentence ever. Wow. No. That's why we have the president. Because people think like this. Anyway. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. Disagree. I think it should absolutely receive public funding, and I absolutely think it should be independent from the state. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. I disagree. I just worked for an airline, though, and I remember 9/11 and when the TSA came around and how everybody called it security theater, and I kind of still agree with that, but I don't know. Overall, I think we can still move the way we can move between states and countries the way we want to. I've been to China. I've been to Holland. I've been out of the country. I had zero problems getting out of the country, coming back in the country. Now, right now, obviously, with the pandemic, things are a little different. But yeah. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. I do disagree with that. I do think that you always need an opposition because you need to keep a balance. That doesn't mean that I think that there should always be a 50-50 split. I mean, anytime you're going to err, I would say you always err on the side of people, but lives is the better way to put it, lives. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. I somewhat disagree with this. That doesn't mean that I don't agree with the surveillance. Things like cameras, I know that a lot of people don't like that, but things like facial recognition cameras in very highly public places, I have no problems with. I live in a subdivision, a gated subdivision, so I wouldn't, as an example, be okay with them putting it like at the entrance and exit of that. But I have no problems with it at let's say federal buildings, state buildings, things like that. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. This is a really hard statement for me because while my vengeance side, of course, says yes, I absolutely agree there should be the death penalty. My voice cracked. I have a very good friend who, she's actually my very best friend. She is very heavily against the death penalty, and all of her arguments are logistical. And that's the thing. If I look at an argument and I see that there's far more logistics in the argument than there are feelings, then it's going to click with me. So I'm going to be strongly disagreeing with this. But it's hard. I'm not going to lie. It's hard because I'm looking at it from an emotional point of view, right? I see this as an emotional point of view thing. So I disagree because I know the logistics of it are better than my feelings on it. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. I disagree. I don't see why you can't have a relatively flat society. There's always going to be smaller hierarchies no matter where you are. But I don't understand why in a general statement it can't be mostly a flat hierarchy. I absolutely hate this statement. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. I strongly disagree with that. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. Disagree. I'm putting disagree, not strongly disagree, because I do think there should be a minor emphasis on punishment. I think, look, if you do X, you're getting X amount of jail time, period, right? So you have to have some sort of punishment. But I also think within that punishment, you're going to be in jail for X amount of months, years, whatever it is. We're going to work on rehabilitating you to make you not offend again, instead of just putting them in prison and letting them figure out their own shit. I'm not okay with that. It is a waste of time to rehabilitate some criminals. Strongly disagree. I think there's not a reason to try with literally 100% of all criminals. That doesn't mean 100% of all criminals can be rehabilitated, but I strongly disagree that it's a waste of time to try. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. Strongly agree. We've already covered that. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. I strongly disagree. Mothers, women in general, women and men are completely equal in my opinion, or they should be completely equal in our society. I do not believe they are right now, but I do believe they should be. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. To think about that, I don't have an opinion on that. And I don't think you can leave anything blank. I agree with. So I'm gonna see if I can leave this blank. You know what? I'm just gonna say I agree. Do I think they're unethically exploiting? I mean, it's a company and their main goal is profit. So I have no reason to think that this is not correct. But I'm putting the asterisk on it that I need to do more research on my own about that. In fact, here's what we're going to do for later. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. I agree with that, but hear me out. Just because you make peace with something doesn't mean you have to agree with it, right? So I understand how the establishment is right now. That doesn't mean that I have to agree with it, and that doesn't mean that I can't fight against it, right? I understand that society is the way it is, but I have no choice in the matter. All right, next page. We're already at 31 minutes, so I'm going to try to hurry this along. Astrology accurately explains many things. Not at all. No. You cannot be moral without being religious. Absolutely not. I consider myself an agnostic atheist, and I do consider myself moral. Charity is better than Social Security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. Bullshit. There should be a safety net, a huge safety net for people who, for whatever reason, are disadvantaged or cannot fulfill a day-to-day life. Some people are naturally unlucky. I agree with that. I don't think that's a misnomer. I don't think people are unlucky. They just somehow end up in shitty situations. But I'm going to agree with that. Here we go. It is important that my child's school instills religious values. Fuck no. Religion is at home and only at home. Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. That's fucking stupid. A same-sex, yes. Should not be excluded from the possibility. Yes. Being gay, yes. Pornography depicting consent should be legal. Yes. What goes on in a private bedroom is no business state. Yes. As long as it's consenting adults. Thank you. No one can feel naturally homosexual. This is a stupid fucking statement. Let me repeat that again. This is a stupid fucking statement. I have never in my life ever felt heterosexual. Let me repeat that again. I have never in my life, I am 41 fucking years old, I have never felt heterosexual. I have never felt an attraction to women. Ever. Now, are you going to tell me that I don't feel naturally homosexual? I'm going to tell you, you can kiss my motherfucking ass, okay? All right, cool. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. I'm going to strongly disagree, because anybody that says that is just a fucking prude. Yeah. All right, here we go. Here we go, the ending. Here we are. What am I? I am, all right. Okay, I get it. What am I? What am I? This isn't Thatcher. All right. Come on. Neocons, neolibs. Yeah. I am a left libertarian. Wow. I'm like almost right diagonal too. Let's show this chart. There it is. I'm actually going to screen grab it. Snippet sketch. New. So there I am. I am a left-leaning libertarian. Join 27 caricatures. All right, let's see what we got. Yeah, so there it is. All right, so I guess I could say that I'm basically, just as I thought it was a libertarian socialist is what I have been deemed before. So I'm guessing that's pretty much what this is, right? I very much believe in personal freedom while being supported by the state. So, yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you for watching my very first political video that I'm actually publishing. I hope that it was somewhat entertaining. I hope that you were able to learn a little bit about me. I'm sorry that it took so long, and there will be no editing because I am terrible at editing. So I hope you have a great night. Cheers.